I'm Carmen Reyes, and last night I discovered our flagship product's catastrophic failure wasn't just a glitch. It was a betrayal orchestrated by those above me. Watch how I became the company's sacrificial lamb, uncover dark office politics and fight back, only to learn that in corporate power plays, justice doesn't always prevail. Carmen Reyes sat stiffly in the CEO's mahogany-paneled office, hands clenched on her lap. Her pulse thumped audibly in her ears as she met the gaze of Marcus Fontaine, the charismatic but inscrutable CEO of Novellus Dynamics. Across from her, he wore a look of forced sympathy that did little to conceal his cold resolve. Carmen, I appreciate everything you've done for the Embersight project. You took on an enormous responsibility, but the board needs someone to take responsibility for the recent launch's failures. He paused as though weighing his next words carefully. It's for the good of the company's image. We need to reassure investors. The board has decided you should step down, effective immediately. Carmen's stomach lurched. She had overseen Embersight from its earliest concept, leading the cross-functional team, mediating design squabbles, and weathering endless executive directives to rush the product out. She had sacrificed nights, weekends, vacations, everything, to meet milestones that Marcus insisted were non-negotiable. And now, in a single sentence, she was being offered up as a scapegoat. But I did exactly as I was instructed. Every acceleration request came from you and the board. Marcus's forced sympathy flickered into something harder, steelier. There was a lapse in quality assurance. The consumers lost faith and investors are pulling back. Sometimes leadership must make tough choices. You are a consummate professional, Carmen. I know you'll transition gracefully. He gestured toward the door. Carmen rose, lifting her chin despite the tears stinging her eyes. She stepped out into the corridor, her heels clicking against marble floors that suddenly felt frigid. A company anniversary banner snapped above the reception desk as if mocking her with celebration. By noon, an all-staff email would announce her departure to pursue new opportunities. She wondered if anyone would believe it. As Carmen packed her things, framed photos of the Embersight team, her favorite Employee of the Month plaque, and a small succulent on her desk, colleagues whispered in hushed tones as they passed. Colleague 1, at least it wasn't me. Colleague 2, good luck next time, I guess. Their relief whispered betrayal louder than words. She tried to swallow her mounting shame and anger, but it came up as a bitter lump in her throat. In the outer office, her assistant, Tanya, hovered uncertainly. I'm sorry, Miss Reyes. I didn't know. Carmen managed a brittle smile and nodded. She swept past, carrying a box of her belongings. As the elevator doors closed, the office's murmur vanished and she was alone, suspended between her past and an uncertain future. Carmen woke to the sunlight filtering through white curtains, the scent of stale coffee from yesterday still clinging to the air. She lay on her small balcony overlooking the city skyline, nursing a mug of black tea while her mind replayed Marcus's words. She had never felt so hollow. The Embersight fiasco would dominate tech headlines, but her name would be a footnote, a necessary casualty. She glanced at her phone and saw a flurry of messages. Grace Lynn, mentor. I'm so sorry. Anything you need, call me. Aiden Reyes, brother. Don't listen to corporate gaslighting, you know your worth. Sophie Jaramillo, former teammate. Heads up. The press is speculating it was all on you. We know the truth. Carmen exhaled. She tried to piece together what happened. Embersight had launched in mid-October. The initial user reviews had been shaky, but salvageable bugs that could be patched. Then, 3 days later, a massive server crashes left thousands of users locked out for 48 hours. Social media erupted, investors quaked. And within 24 hours of that crash, Marcus had singled her out to take one for the team. She drained her tea and rose. Today, she would meet her lawyer to sign the severance package. Behind every clause lay non-disclosure agreements that would muzzle her. And behind every polite platitude was the shattering knowledge that corporate power rarely rewarded fairness. Carmen slid into the glass-walled office of Margaret Klein, her shrewd attorney. Margaret passed her a thick stack of papers. The severance agreement, a detailed non-disparagement clause, and a waiver of any future claims. Here's the deal. 6 months salary continuation, health benefits for a year, and a letter of recommendation, if you ask nicely. In exchange, you agree not to discuss the product failure publicly or pursue legal claims. Standard fare when someone is being amicably removed. Carmen skimmed the document. She felt sick. Once signed, her career at Novellus would be over. But her bank account would remain intact for the next few months, long enough to decide if she would fight or quietly fade away. They're asking me to accept full blame. That's why they pay you. This is about optics, giving investors a solution to blame so they forget to ask tough questions of Marcus or the board. Carmen nodded, resigned. She would sign. But Margaret's words fanned a spark. She refused to vanish quietly. I want a clause protecting any whistleblower disclosures should I discover malfeasance. Margaret raised an eyebrow. That's tough. NDAs usually prohibit exactly that, but I can try. At minimum, I'll insist the language be to the extent permissible by law. Carmen exhaled. Do it. This small margin gave her hope. Carmen entered the building for the last time, this swallow of stale air, the recycled scent of printer toner and latte lines. She passed Marcus in the lobby. For a moment, their eyes met. He offered a cold nod. She turned away. She took the elevator to the 27th floor. In the HR offices, Tanya handed her the company laptop. Carmen clicked through the desktop, watching the familiar folders blink. She paused at the Embersite folder. Memories of code merges and late-night test runs flooded in. She closed her eyes and pressed log out, sealing off another chapter. Back home, Carmen opened her briefcase and retrieved the severance agreement. She signed the signature lines with a trembling pen. Beneath the words "effective immediately," her career at Novellus ended. She placed the pen down and stared out the window. The city lights blinked back as if to mock her insignificance. Tomorrow she would decide her next step. For tonight she allowed herself to feel grief, anger, humiliation. Carmen met Leonard Leo Alvarez, her former lead engineer, at a quiet cafe. Leo's shift as Embersite's technical lead made him privy to the internal blame game. Thanks for meeting. I need to know, was the server crash truly my fault? Carmen, they made you the face, but the actual failure was deeper. The infrastructure team, led by Darren Cole, pushed untested patches the night before launch. I warned them the environment wasn't stable and asked for rollback. Darren said he had orders straight from the top. I woke up to error codes scarier than anything I'd seen. Carmen felt her chest tighten. Darren? But I always handled deployments. Why didn't he call me? He said you were too slow. Marcus wanted them to move fast, no matter the risk. They bypassed your QA scrub, literally unplugged your monitor. Carmen clenched her fists. Then they blamed me. That's beyond betrayal. There's more. HR has a list of troublemakers. Anyone who questioned the push. They quietly coached Darren, and the ops leads said, Carmen doesn't need to know the full plan. They didn't want your interference. She stared at her mug, numb. She had always trusted the process, trusted Marcus. Now she saw the scaffolding of lies. I need proof. Can you give me logs or emails? I've backed up the stash. We should go through it together. Later, Carmen and Leo sat at her desk, scouring through encrypted folders on her personal drive. They uncovered Darren's directive email, 10:15, 10:03 p.m. Deploy patch 5, 2.3 to production at 10:30 p.m. No QA needed. Marcus insists. Operations chat, 10:15, 10:45 p.m. Darren, she'll complain, but we'll tell her it's a security fix. QA ticket log, 10:15, 9:30 p.m. Carmen, failing memory leak in Module X, risk of crash, recommend rollback. Marcus's private message to Darren, 10:15, 11 p.m. They need it now. Don't delay. Carmen will clean up afterward. Carmen stared at the timestamps lining up exactly with the events. Her climb had been orchestrated by those above. The cold betrayal sank in. They used me to take the fall, sacrificed my reputation to cover their negligence. I'm so sorry. Carmen closed her laptop. Anger boiled within her. She would demand these emails from Novellus' servers, preferably before the NDA gagged her. She had to strategize carefully. If she went public, she risked legal battles. If she didn't, she'd be remembered as the failed director who ruined Embersite. But she refused to disappear quietly. Carmen and Leo retreated to a small co-working space near her apartment, a place outside Novellus' network. They set up encrypted laptops to review their findings. In the fluorescent glow, they inched toward assembling a complete dossier. Exhibit A, Darren's directive email. Exhibit B, QA ticket log. Exhibit C, private chat exports. Exhibit D, witness statements. Leo leaned in. I can hide these on a secure drive, but we need corroboration. Someone from Ops willing to come forward. I can ask Maya Jackson. She approved the overnight backup schedule. If she testifies, we'll have an Ops lead confirming they bypassed QA. Leo nodded, cursor flicking. Contact her discreetly. HR might already have tapped her for the cleanup. I'll send an anonymous message. If she replies, we'll know it's safe. While Leo continued to redact personal data, Carmen drafted the note. Maya, I have evidence Embersight's release was forced despite QA warnings. If you can confirm Ops was instructed to override QA, please reply. Use this secure channel. She hit send. 2 hours later, Carmen's encrypted inbox pinged. I've seen the same logs. They told me not to question. Meet me at the cafe across 8th at 7 p.m. Carmen's pulse fluttered with hope. She and Leo packed their bags. Maya sat in a corner booth, nervous eyes darting to the entrance as Carmen and Leo approached. They told me that patch was critical for security, but it was a lie. I had the logs, tested the code. It crashed at 10:33 p.m. I went to QA, but Darren said, management knows best. Maya slid a memory stick across the table. Server logs showing the memory corruption events and override commands. Carmen inserted it into her laptop, absorbing more proof. Helena Frost blocked my request to escalate to the CTO. She called me obstructionist. I had no recourse. I fear for my job, but you deserve truth to prevail. Carmen squeezed Maya's hand. You're safe. We'll keep your identity confidential. We need to bring this to light. Maya nodded, tears brimming. Her trembling face revealed how high the stakes truly were. Back at her apartment, Carmen spread the evidence across her desk. Emails, logs, screen captures, and Maya's server files. She began to draft a truth dossier, a secure PDF that laid out timeline of events. 10:15, 9:30 p.m., QA flags critical issue. 10:15, 10:03 p.m., Darren's order to deploy without QA. 10:15, 10:33 p.m., Embersight crashes. 10:15, 11 p.m., Marcus's message telling Carmen to clean up. Evidence of bypassed QA. Darren's override emails, Maya's server logs, configuration files from Embersight's production environment. Whispers of executive collusion. Helena Frost's intercepted chat. Carmen must take one for the team. CFO's budget email. We need a scapegoat to appease investors. Character testimonies. Maya's sworn statement. Leo's affidavit detailing how his code was edited behind Carmen's back. Carmen realized this dossier could rock Novellis dynamics to its core, but she also recognized the enormous risk. If she distributed it prematurely, she might face legal action, slander charges, or worse. She needed an ally in a large media outlet, someone known for protecting whistleblowers. She picked up the phone and dialed Elena Ortiz, an investigative reporter at the prominent tech publication Silicon Justice. Elena Ortiz speaking. This is Carmen Reyes. I have proof of a deliberate cover-up at Novellis Dynamics. Can we meet offline? I've heard rumors. If you can provide hard evidence, call me tomorrow at 8 a.m. I'll give you a secure line. Carmen exhaled, hope tempered by caution. At 8 a.m., Carmen entered a backroom suite above a hip cafe that Elena had reserved. The windows were frosted, and a single table held 2 chairs, backlit by a small lamp. Elena waited, her face serious but curious. Thank you for meeting. Are you armed with proof? Everything. The dossier, Darren's emails, Maya's logs, Helena's orders. Carmen placed a secure USB on the table. Elena plugged it into her laptop and began reviewing. Minutes passed in silence, broken only by the click of keys. This is explosive. The chain of command is undeniable. If I publish this, your name may be out. Is that okay? Yes. I expect consequences, but I'd rather defend the truth than die under a corporate lie. Elena nodded, lifting an eyebrow. I'll write an exposé and run it Tuesday morning at 8. I'll give you a pseudonym if you want. But if they subpoena sources, you might have to testify. Carmen clutched her drink. I'll do whatever it takes. They shook hands. Carmen left, each step out of the cafe heavier with anticipation. That afternoon, rumors swirled through Novellis. There's a leak coming tomorrow, executives whispered. Helena Frost's office door locked as she barked orders to her assistant. Find the leak. I want every server scanned for outflows. In the HR hallway, Tanya passed a sticky note to Leo. Silicon Justice will publish tomorrow. Heads up. Things are about to get ugly. Carmen spent the rest of the day at Leo's apartment, rehearsing her testimony, steel building in her chest. When she closed her eyes that night, she knew the next 24 hours would define her future. At precisely 8 a.m., Silicon Justice launched its headline in bold red. Top executives at Novellus Dynamics hid critical Ember site breach. Project director sacrificed as scapegoat. Subheader: Exclusive documents reveal CEO and board orchestrated rushed launch despite known vulnerabilities, then forced director Carmen Reyes to resign. Whistleblower testimony and internal emails lay bare the cover-up. The article unfolded in sections. Introduction detailing how Ember site's server crash spiraled into a PR and investor nightmare. Document timeline with annotated emails, logs, and chat snippets. Whistleblower accounts quoting Carmen, Leo, and Maya. Legal analysis from a GDPR expert projecting fines and potential shareholder lawsuits. Within minutes, Novellus' stock ticker plunged 12%. Social media erupted. #Carmen Reyes trended on Twitter. At Tech Ethics Daily, integrity wins, finally the truth. At Novellus Invests, we're pulling shares until leadership changes. Marcus Fontaine burst into Helena Frost's office, paces in anger. They published the dossier. The evidence is all over the internet. We need damage control now. Helena's calm facade cracked. I need a plan. We can't let Carmen destroy us. We go on record. We take the allegations seriously, have launched an internal audit. Throw Leo and Maya under the bus. They're lower level. Protect the board. Helena's eyes gleamed with ruthless calculation. At 11 a.m., they convened the executive team in the emergency boardroom. Injunctions were drafted to prevent further leaks. Legal counsel arrived, urging them to apologize and promise cooperation with regulators. If they acted contrite, they might delay lawsuits and brand damage. But Marcus insisted they drive the narrative. We must recast Carmen as the sole perpetrator. We have all intel on Darren's rogue actions. We'll scapegoat him and shift blame from the board. At noon, a coordinated email blasted all employees. Statement from Novellus Dynamics. Today, allegations have surfaced regarding the Ember site launch. We deeply regret the outage experienced by users. An internal review has identified that our former director, Ms. Carmen Reyes, made critical operational errors by bypassing necessary QA steps. We have terminated associated staff and are cooperating fully with regulatory authorities. Novellus remains committed to providing secure, reliable solutions and will implement additional safeguards. Within the hour, the company's PR machine flooded tech news sites with updates. Novellus blames ex-director for Ember site disaster. Board fires drafter of Ember site QA protocol. Carmen's name was emblazoned as the villain, with Darren cast as a disgraced subordinate. Marcus Fontaine emerged partially unscathed, portrayed as a concerned CEO, caught off guard. By afternoon, Carmen sat in a small rented office, streaming a roundtable discussion on Tech Now Live. Panelists dissected the Novellus statement. Panelist A, they've spun it well, blame the incompetent director. But the real question, why did the CEO push for that patch? Panelist B, if you read Carmen's statement, there were clear orders from the top. It's a classic scapegoat model. Carmen leaned forward, tears in her eyes but pride tightening her voice. She whispered to herself, they can lie, but people will know. The truth is out. The board convened again, tension palpable. Legal counsel laid out urgent notes. With evidence in the public domain, Novellus faces class action suits, regulatory fines, and investor suits. The board must act swiftly to defuse this. Roland Carter, the recently elevated chairman, cleared his throat. We propose immediate leadership restructuring, freeze share options for Marcus and Helena for 2 years, appoint independent auditors, and deposit $50 million to establish a trust fund for affected users. Marcus and Helena exchanged glances. Punishment for them was minimal compared to Carmen's career loss. As for Darren, we will terminate him immediately and claim he acted without authorization. Ensure all communications reflect that. We must contain liability. They passed the motion unanimously. In that room, Carmen remained a ghost, thrust out but never forgotten. Carmen had taken a small consulting office in a modest building downtown. Reyes Security and Assurance read a simple sign. She sat before a modest desk, reviewing resumes of prospective clients, startups wanting honest security protocols. She missed the scale of Novellis but embraced the freedom. Her phone buzzed, a text from Leo. Good morning, we won our first case. A GDPR inquiry forced Novellis to pay a $5 million fine. She exhaled, validation in the news. But just as quickly came a social media post. Novellis shares drop 3% on resignations. Marcus remains CEO. Court of Damage Control continues. Carmen thumbed the post. Power still ruled. Marcus remained in place, his reputation only scratched. She took a deep breath and typed an email to Grace. I have my own firm now. Won't be easy, but I'm ready. Love you. In real life, power often triumphs over justice. Carmen's fight forced accountability and created a ripple. Novellis's board paid fines. Marcus and Helena lost bonuses, and Darren was fired. But Marcus kept his position. Helena remained an executive, albeit with reduced stock, and the company continued its rise under new PR spin. For all her efforts, Carmen's new firm was small, no comparably grand stage. A year later, Novellis Dynamics announced the acquisition of a rival, propelling its stock back to record highs. Marcus gave a confident interview. We emerged stronger. Embersight was a lesson. Move fast, learn faster. Carmen watched from her advising office as his words played. She closed her eyes and sipped her coffee. Justice might be partial, but at least she had cast light on the truth. As twilight settled over the city, Carmen jammed the final file into a locked cabinet. The Truth Dossier. It served as a reminder that some battles leave scars, and some victories are bittersweet. She glanced at her reflection in the window as office lights flickered on below. In her modest firm's nameplate, she saw a different path defined by integrity, not expedience. She recalled Marcus's forced sympathy and Helena's icy manipulation. In that world, blame was fungible, and power made the rules. Behind every "for the good of the company" lay convenient scapegoats. Carmen realized that sometimes truth alone is not enough to wield power. But in the quiet moments, she found peace in knowing at least she tried. In the courts of corporate power, fairness often bows to influence. But when you hold the truth, you carry a light no error can extinguish. She turned away from the window, heading toward a meeting with a fledgling startup worried about their own security outlook. The stakes were smaller, but the mission was pure. In life, power does not always favor the just, yet every time someone dares to stand, they shift the balance, making it just a little harder for deceit to win unchallenged.